Okay, it's 7:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting of the July 9th, 2018 Zoning Board of Appeals to order. And our first item on the agenda is to the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask that everybody stand, face the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. McLean, can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Allen.
Here.
Emmons.
Here.
Gasund.
Here.
Krug.
Here.
McAlpin.
Here.
And Evans.
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum. Next on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Does staff or any members of the board have any changes to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting of June 11th, 2018.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. McLean.
Allen.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Gasund.
Yes.
Krug.
Yes.
McAlpin.
Yes.
And Evans.
Yes. Our next item is for consideration our meeting minutes for June 11th, 2018. Do any members have any changes, suggested changes to those minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 11, 2018 meeting as presented. Support.
We have motion and support. Any discussion? Mr. McLean.
Emmons.
Yes.
Gasund.
Yes.
Krug.
Yes.
McAlpin.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
And Evans.
Yes. Okay, the first item on our agenda is an application for property at 1405 Franklin. Is the applicant here? I see yes. Okay. We'll ask you to step to the podium in just a minute. Mr. McLean is going to do a brief summary for everyone listening tonight.
The applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Barbasak, had a generator installed on their property. The contractor that they hired to do the work did not have an approved permit for the installation of the generator. To add to it also the fact that the generator was placed in a side yard, which, as the Zoning Board of Appeals has opined in the past, that generators are accessory structures. By ordinance, an accessory structure is only permitted in the rear yard. I did discover through some additional research the contractor did apply for a permit, but it had not been approved yet.
Okay.
So the applicants are seeking a variance to have the generator in the side yard.
Very good. Do any members of the board have any questions for
I
Mr.
just want to
Krug?
make a statement that, to let everybody know that I have a professional relationship with Oak Electric. I've done a bit of work with them in the past. I don't feel it'll have any impact on how I would vote tonight, but I just want to let you know that. And
Okay, you believe you could act impartially on this request?
yes.
Okay. The board in general, any objections to Mr. Krug? No?
No concerns.
No concerns?
No.
Okay, I'm hearing no concerns. Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that for the record.
You're welcome.
All righty. And did anyone have any questions for staff? Mr. Allen?
A couple of questions for staff. This is about the fourth, maybe the fifth request for variance for a generator that we've had in the last 8 months. What is the status of the Planning Commission rewriting the zoning amendment for that?
This is an item that's going to be on the Planning Commission agenda for July. My predecessor had started to craft language, for generators relative to accessory structures. There was some initial discussion with the Planning Commission, but they have not taken up that item since about July of 2017. So there's nothing been approved. So it's going to be on the agenda. This seems to be an item that keeps popping up again and again. So this, in my mind, is a higher priority item. So I'm hoping to get language finalized and approved so that we can free up our docket.
Yeah, it speaks very loudly when they continue to come for variances that something needs to be looked at, for sure. Thank you for doing that.
Anything else from any of the members?
I'm just curious, you said the permit was applied for but not issued.
Yes.
Was it delayed, or do you want to give any more background on why it was?
I'd have to get some additional background. I believe there was some information that was outstanding, before the permit could be approved. And basically, our staff had, once it had been discovered that the generator had been installed, without the permit, we reached out to the contractor for an explanation, and they said that it was one of those things that just slipped through the cracks.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Well, at this point, I'll ask the applicants who are here to please come up and state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Barbasak, and we live on 1405 Franklin Road, and we've been here since, how long? 1958. We got here in 1958 when things were just getting started.
Okay, all right, and you are?
I'm Shirley Hansen, and because he's a newcomer, I came in 43, and we're good friends. I came to support him.
Okay, well, what we'll do is you will have an opportunity to comment at public comment as well as present any additional things you'd like to for the board. And we'll do that during public comment. So it'll be just a moment, okay? So I just want to take a seat. All right, sir, thank you for coming tonight. We reviewed your application in detail. And is there anything you'd like to add or tell the board tonight?
Well, I didn't have anything to think about, but thinking about it as a past, I didn't know that anything was done wrong. I assumed the company I'm dealing with, like one of your gentlemen here said, that they're honorable people. They do great work. They've done a lot of work for us. I'd hate to say something like I didn't think about it, because I don't think that was true. But everything looked logical. The place where we put it looked there. It was protected and all that sort of thing. Thought everything was right, and that's how it happens, I guess. But been around a long time and done a lot of things here, but I just didn't do it, I guess. But again, I replied on the supply that they do everything. They've handled, they've cleaned it, and I had all the respect, and they knew where they were putting it. Took them a day to do it, and it was in perfect place. We have a situation there that it floods. I had 10 feet of water in my basement that came through my side door. So, and for some reason, where we are, where I understand that perhaps someone wanted to do, you get there, it gets flooded from that street, which I was going to be funny and say, I hope that's one of your next projects, but I'm not going to be a smart aleck here. But the water comes through, and it comes down through, and it works down, and they come down our driveway. And this for the first time. We've been here for a long time. It went through our side door, and we watched it grow. So we felt it wouldn't fit there. I mean, at the starting points, tell you the truth. And then this just seems so logical, because we're down at the basement schedule. So our police starts down at the basement.
Sir, could you make sure you speak close to the microphone? This is being
sorry.
broadcast on TV as well.
Haven't done this for a while.
That's not a
All new
problem.
to us.
Yeah, sorry about that. So anyhow, it was just a logical place. We're down to the your basement yard, so it's there, and their yard is there, as an example. It's all there. The things that we put into it are here, and there's no place in our yard. Now we have a place where you can get in and do things, and that's there. It's a quiet area. It's blocked in. One side that we have, if this where it is, there's a fence. We have that because between their yard and our yard, it's a logical place to go, because we're protected now to our backyard. So we didn't want to. The thought didn't even come to our mind, if that makes any sense. I don't. By all means, this is not my way I made a living.
Sure.
I didn't know about things. I replied. I respected on our group. I think what they do at City Hall and does those things, they don't let anything go by. And I think our guy doesn't let it go. And like the gentleman said, they're a top company. They've done many other things. So it just didn't enter to me. and I can't find a spot to be over. And when I heard that one of the thoughts would be where it floods, that won't work. Our yard is only this wide. You can't get those things there right now. There they are. They come out of the basement, and there's I mean, it's just natural. Matter
Okay.
of fact, I don't want to brag for myself. I thought
Sure.
it was pretty clever.
All
But,
right.
I didn't have any idea that I was doing anything wrong.
Sure, okay. Do any members of the board have any questions for the applicant?
I just one short statement. I understand what Mr. Barbersack is saying about when you hire somebody, you pretty much rest on the principle that they know what they're doing, they're gonna pull the proper permits and put it where it needs to go. And I, for one, understand that this isn't a situation that was created by you, 100%. I just wanted you to know
Thank you.
that.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Anything else from the members of the board? Okay, sir, why don't you have a seat, and I'll open the public hearing. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? If so, please step up to the podium and let us know your name and address.
Now I get my turn.
You do.
Shirley Hanson, lifelong friend of the Barbersacks, and I have here to submit to the committee. They have contacted the neighbors that are surrounding their home to see if there's any noise problems, anything. And these attest to the fact that the neighbors have no objections. So
Okay, if you
I
want to
could
present those to
submit
staff, and he can review them quickly for the record, and he can pass those around for board member review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do have one question. Is your comment in there? If so,
No,
what is your thought on
because-
this, if you'd like to share it with the board?
I beg your pardon?
What's your thought on this matter, if you'd like to share it with the board?
Well, I have been to the house, and I've even been there when the generator turns on. It's only on for a 5-minute period. And at first, I sat in the living room, and you can barely hear it. It isn't as loud as if a neighbor was mowing the lawn across the street. And even when I went out on the back deck by the hot tub, you can't hardly hear it. So I personally don't see where it's a problem, and they have one of the narrower lots in Berkeley, and with the 2-car garage, there isn't much of a backyard, and they do have a serious flooding problem at the back of the lot. And that one, I believe, that you're holding in your hand is from Mrs. Earl. She lives directly next to the generator. I mean, it's by her driveway, and she'd be the one that would hear it, would have the most impact on.
Right. Okay, well, thanks for that clarification. That was a question I was going to ask. Okay, thank you very
Okay,
much.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the board on this? Anyone else here for public hearing? I'll ask a final time. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. And at this point, the board members are reviewing the information provided by the
I'll just make one note as we're reviewing these. One of the residents actually said they never even knew the resident had the generator installed, so it obviously cannot be causing that much of a noise issue.
All right, and we do have letters of support. We have 6 letters of support
One
from
more, so 7.
There's 5 here, plus 6,
Oh, I'm
yep.
sorry,
That's
sorry.
okay, yep, thank you. And it looks like they all do support, and these are all Franklin Road residents. And yes, the individual, Ms. Earl at 1421 Franklin, which does appear to be the next door neighbor. Yeah, she compares it to a running lawnmower. It notices it, but it ends shortly thereafter, so she certainly does not appear to be an objection to it.
Is it 4 letters?
actually looking for, if everyone wonders what I'm doing with my pages. Did we receive a map of the area in our packet?
Yes, there was a,
No, I just said.
No, not like that.
Yeah, what I'm looking for is like, I know we received a list of everyone who notice was sent to and their addresses. I'm trying to idea the proximity of some of the other neighbors who
Have
wrote
that in
in.
here.
We don't
Oh,
have,
we just have the single lot
yeah.
in here.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Wish I could read that.
Okay. Well, we've heard from the applicant, we've heard from the members of the public. I'm going to bring it back down to the board for discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So given the design of the property owner, then we would have proposed they put it in the back, but is that where the flooding is?
Yes.
Correct? So that does pose a circumstance that is not the result of the homeowner.
that is correct.
And just so you all understand, there are certain criteria in which we have to meet, so that's what we're trying to make sure is that you meet those criteria so that legally we can approve the variance and not be opening ourselves up to any future applicants coming forth with the same thing and not being fair to them, so, just so we understand the process.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion on the board? I know we've got 5 standards that this board is required to have a comfort level that exists in order to grant a variance. Any additional discussion? Sir, I did have one question. If you could just step up to the podium. There's a fence shown in blue on your site plan. Is that your fence? The wood fence?
A wood fence?
Yeah, is that your fence?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I did have a question for the applicant.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have another question for board member. If you want to step back up. Thank you, sir.
Sure, I'll stay.
You'll get your exercise tonight.
It's been a long time.
When was the generator installed? Approximate date?
Bear with me, I've been having, October?
October? Okay.
October.
And there's been maybe 3 chances to use it since then? Power outages where you had
No,
to
we've
fire
never
up?
used it.
You've never used it?
No.
Okay.
Never.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Is that it?
Yeah, should be. I do have a question, follow-up for yours. Have staff received any complaints regarding this noise or otherwise?
To date, we have received no complaints.
No complaints, okay.
And to that, I think we've even indicated someone didn't even know they had one.
Yeah, that's definitely not a complaint.
But if the generator wasn't fired up because of a power outage,
Well, they have to test them.
Yeah,
To
once
test
a
'em,
week
but
they'll
yeah.
run for 5 minutes to.
So if
Okay,
once a week
yeah.
they've been going on since October, that's,
okay,
what, 8, 9 months?
Yeah.
okay.
And I will say on my street, well, really anywhere where I've been where there's been an extended power outage,
Mhm.
the number of generators that are running at the same time actually overwhelms, I think,
Yeah,
any individual generator on the street. Just everyone on the street doesn't have
Right.
power, and they're trying to do what they can.
And these type of generators typically operate at a much lower level than most of those that people are plugging in.
Exactly, they're much quieter
Right.
okay.
than a freestanding.
They're sort of like the difference between an old dishwasher and a new dishwasher. They're engineered to the point where they basically just purr.
So then at this point, we're just trying to clean up something that should have been handled, obviously, that was not a result of anything the homeowner did, to kind of clean up the records, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, I hear him say he's got flooding, that
Yep.
I didn't hear anybody say he caused the flooding.
It's not a result of anything he did.
Right. Strict compliance, unreasonably prevent the property owner. Well, to be quite honest, when there's a power outage, everyone has generators everywhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McLean, but I'm confident the city's not running around telling people to put those in your backyard.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge, no.
They're doing too
That's
many other
okay.
things at that
Okay.
point.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, our 4th standard here, is it the minimum necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant? Do any members have any comments either way on that one?
I think it's hidden, it's a fence, I mean, it's,
Yep.
and I don't think to that point, the last one, which is it does not adversely impact the surrounding properties. Given all those, I'm prepared to make a motion that we approve the request for the variance.
Okay. If you're prepared to make a motion,
Okay.
you may make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request PBA 0518, and we approve the request variance to replace the generator in the residential side yard, given that they do meet the 5 criteria that are outlined that we must follow in order to grant a variance.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I just dislike, the actual motion I don't have a problem with, but I dislike giving the idea that a contractor can install something without getting the actual permit or.
I agree. I'm more troubled by the fact that the permit wasn't followed through on than the request for the variance.
So I would ask, because that did concern me as well, when we asked the question about the contractor much earlier. So I don't know what scope we have, but I would also request that the staff send the contractor a letter or some kind of document stating that there are certain rules and procedures that they must follow, and that moving forward, if they fail to do so, I don't know what we can do in return, but there's some kind of consequence for them, and that this is not how we do business here in Berkeley. Does that help you all?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
And code enforcement does have in their purview to, issue a citation for
Okay.
that. And that was kind of the angle we were going towards. That was brought to my attention that they did apply for the permit, so.
They should know better, and
Absolutely.
these people, I hope that somehow you're recouping the money that you had to spend to come here, because that obviously should not have come out of your pocket, but that's not for us to discuss. But at some point, they need to make sure that they're held accountable and that they know that we are taking things like this seriously. And, one mark, maybe you forgot, maybe, who knows what the circumstances are, but it should not be, we should not continue to see this kind of thing come from them, or their customers, really.
I will have a letter drafted and in the mail to the contractor tomorrow morning.
Perfect, thank
Thank you.
you.
Any additional comments or discussion from any members of the board? Okay, I have one comment following up on Ms. McAlpine and Mr. Jasons. I just want to be clear, I'm going to vote yes for this, and the fact that it was installed without a permit does not have any impact.
Right,
I believe
exactly.
they've met the standards.
That goes for me as well.
Okay, yeah.
I agree with,
Right.
as well.
Okay. With that being said, I think we're ready for a vote. Mr. McLean?
Emmons,
Yes.
Gesund,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McAlpin,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes?
and Evans.
Yes. Congratulations, you have your variance.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Well, hopefully you don't have to use it.
All right.
Those are
In Berkeley, chances are.
yeah.
Yeah.
The rats will chew through the electric cords. Very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Aw,
Thanks for coming in.
nice to meet you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations, sir.
All righty. The next item on our agenda, as required by Section 7 of our Rules of Procedure, is the annual review of our Rules of Procedure. Mr. McLean, did you have any intro, or should I just get right into it? Good enough. It is what it is. And we've all had these with our agenda packet since it was available. Is there any discussion or thoughts on the Rules of Procedure, any changes? Mr. Allen?
What I would like to see, and I'm glad it's in here because it's really, really important, the training that everybody should go through. I'd like to see us be a little more diligent about tracking that. It's just been kind of a gentleman or gentlewoman's agreement that, okay, that's good, we'll participate, but that needs to be tracked. Because you can really get into some trouble if you have people on your board that have never been properly trained by a professional.
Agree.
I did notice and maybe this is just a smudge on my copy or something, but in section 2, paragraph 1, second sentence says that the ZBA shall consist of 7 regular members and the city council shall appoint 2 alternates members, but it almost looks like the S is somewhat struck out.
I see that too, and it would make sense that if the S isn't stricken out, it should be. And that's a typo.
Okay, so I'm not crazy then.
No, yeah. Everybody else see that?
It was a strike through.
Yeah.
It looks like it was stricken through.
Yeah. All right. All right, well, perhaps that's one change that I think we should make. We certainly expect, but don't always rely on spell check.
And then just one other comment I had was in section 3, 1A, the 15 days prior to the scheduled public hearing, is that always really feasible?
Yes, with the way we establish our schedule for applying for variances, that does allow for the 15-day public notice period.
Okay,
It has not been an issue so far.
okay.
Ms. McGill?
Do you know if we are having an August meeting?
I've received no applications to date.
The reason I was asking, just given that we are missing some of our other members, I was just curious to see if we would have another meeting so that that would maybe give them a chance. Or did we did not receive any correspondence from them?
Mr. Kirby had a prior commitment.
I mean, I knew
yes.
so I'm just stating that, okay, so they got their they couldn't come, but if they got their packets and they looked at something, they
Yes.
didn't send you
Yep,
any
no-
kind of
yeah, nothing,
correspondence
no-
that there
no
was
correspondence.
an issue with any given
And
part
I
of
believe
this.
our deadline for August is this Friday. So
Okay.
if I'll be sending out a message if we get one in. If not,
I just
we
didn't
can
know what the
enjoy our-
likelihood of us thinking of, and if there is the ability to move this to where we had everyone engaged.
Yeah, and I might be able to shed some
Okay.
light on that. While it sounds like staff's indicating he hasn't heard back from any of the members who aren't here, any comments on this, it does say that Section 8, that they may be amended during any regular meeting.
Okay.
So I would opine that if it was important for someone to bring that up, I don't see, I wouldn't have any issue with being put back on the agenda. Certainly, that's how we operate here.
Mhm. I just know Mr. Kirby has been a longstanding member, and I think as we went through these the last few years, it's good to get everyone, and the other commissioners, it's good to get everyone's thoughts and feedback.
Sure.
I think it's good to have new eyes and old eyes look at things.
Agreed. Well, certainly, Mr. McLean, you'll make sure that something like that's stated in the minutes, so Mr. Kirby is aware that this board would be open if somebody had any comments, not Mr. Kirby, but any of the board members.
Absolutely.
Mr. Butts, yep.
yes.
Okay, great.
I had a
Mr. Giselle?
comment. Section 3, 1A says the zoning officer. Is there anything, because your position was kind of newly created or newly named, is there anything indicated when your position was created that you are the acting or the official zoning officer for the city, or should we change that to community development coordinator?
I'll defer to the job description, and I'll have to defer to that, and then I will
Okay.
let you know. I should have an answer first part of tomorrow.
I think that'd be a good point, is to make sure that whatever that,
Well, I think that the zoning officer is Mr. Allen,
The
yes.
planning commission just went through that with their rules as well.
Oh.
And that was a concern that his title aligned with what's on the paper here.
Right.
So there was no question.
Okay, and it
I
does.
think that's good.
Yeah, and I do know in looking through the ordinance recently that if there is a position in there called the zoning officer, and it appears to me that a lot of the duties that Mr. McLean's position does is the zoning officer.
Yep. I'd agree.
Yeah, if that sheds any light on anything.
I just think we need to be more specific then as well.
Okay. Now, looks like there's a couple references in section 1 for a zoning officer. Yeah. Probably numerous sections, now I'm looking through it.
Right.
I think we probably should blanket go through the whole entire document and make sure that wherever we're referring to someone in your position, no matter what the title is, that it's appropriately addressed.
Yep. And I can bring this back for whenever our next meeting.
I think that would be good.
Okay. Is everyone, I hear some yeses, is everyone in general consensus with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seeing yeses, okay.
Do we need a motion to table to the next meeting?
We probably will, I just want to make sure we're
Okay.
done with anything else that we should be discussed tonight. Any other comments?
No, the rest of it looks good.
And the only other thing is, if I'm not mistaken, we amended these more recently than 2016, am I correct?
Amended meaning change them?
Yeah.
Or just reviewed them?
I thought we made changes last year. Nonetheless, I think we just need to make sure that that date that's on the document is correct.
Oh, the amendment date,
Yeah.
okay.
And as I recall, I did review the minutes from last year, and if I'm recalling correctly, there were no changes.
Oh, okay,
last
so maybe
year,
that's correct then. Okay.
Maybe if we undergo these changes as a result
Yep.
of, yeah, okay, excellent. All right, so we have three things, the strikeout S in section 2, item 1, and then the overall question about having the title zoning officer accurately reconcile with Mr. McLean's position and his duties with the city, and just examine what changes, if anything, should be done, and perhaps bring that back at a future meeting. Yeah, if somebody wants to make a motion to say the August.
Yeah, I'm not certain we need a motion to do that. I mean, I've kind of got some direction from the commission, so I guess it's up to,
Maybe just make a motion that we postpone.
Sure.
Yep.
To the August meeting. Mr. Allen?
There was one other thing, some verbiage in section 2, membership A, that will be tracking the training.
Okay. Any additional discussion on that, or just as one of our bullet points for discussion next month?
Bullet point.
Bullet point? Okay. I see Mr. McLean nodding, so he's got that on his list. Good, good.
got it.
All right.
I'd make a motion to set this aside until our next regular meeting, and Tim can put together the things that we've discussed and resubmit it to us at that point for action.
All right, we've got a motion to postpone to the August meeting, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Support?
Support?
Can I just add one more, I'm sorry, if we can just make sure that when you send out the note, the email that we have a meeting, that we'll have our packets, this is in there, just put that, you know, if you cannot make the meeting, to make sure that if you have any questions on the rules and procedures, that we will accept them even if you can't attend the meeting, or something something to that effect, so that those who can't be here know that they have the opportunity and it doesn't hold us up.
Sure.
I can do that.
I'll amend my motion to reflect that as well.
Support?
Support, okay. Any further discussion? Mr. McLean?
Gasund,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McAlpin,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Emmons,
Yes.
and Evans.
Yes. All right, and our next item is for the board is elections, matter of electing a chair and vice chair to the zoning board of appeals. I guess I'll start out by just saying that as chair, while I appreciate the role, I have found it to be an educational one, and while I'm willing to continue as chair, I also think and would encourage, if any other of my members would like to be chair, I would have take no offense to that.
I will echo the same sentiments, and I will also echo the fact that I would be willing to either serve as vice chair or chair, depending upon what the board's pleasure is.
Excuse me.
Any additional discussion, or potential motion possibly, discussion on a potential motion?
I'd like to move to nominate, I guess is the term, Paul Evans and Sue McAlpine as chair and vice chair respectively.
You have a motion?
Support.
And support? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. McLean.
Krug,
Yes.
McAlpin,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Emmons,
Yes.
Gesund,
Yes.
and Evans.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is other business. Do any members of the board or staff have any other business to bring to our attention tonight?
I'd just like to ask everybody, well, welcome to the home viewing audience, and please attend the street art fair on Saturday. Thank you.
I'd like to echo Mr. Gasson's sentiments about the broadcast of this. I think it's a good thing to open it up to the public, to be able to see it, and the fact that it's streamed, played live, and recorded, that you can watch it anytime on YouTube is a good thing. No such thing as too much information.
Thanks to the staff for making that happen.
Yes, and city council. I'm sure
Yep.
there's some budgetary
Yep.
decisions that had to go into that. All right, the liaison report is our next item. I'm not sure we have, I'm sorry, did you have anything to add for other comments? Okay.
As you all may have heard, the Planning Commission did make a recommendation on the proposed La Salette project, and they have recommended that City Council deny the project as it is currently proposed, and that's something that will be taken up by City Council at the next meeting on Monday, July 16th.
Okay, thanks for that update.
Long process.
Yes, yes. All right, now I'll move on to the next item of business. Our liaison report.
I don't think we
We
have
have a
one.
liaison.
Have
Yeah,
one?
We've been working on City Council to get a liaison appointed, and I'm hoping that we will have that done in the near term.
Sure. Well, I know city council's busy, and they're going to continue to be busy, so I can certainly understand. Okay, well, now is the time for public comments. Do any members of the public would like to provide the board any comments regarding any items that are not on the agenda? I see. Any members of the public? I'll ask a final time. Anyone have any comments? Okay. Thank you. Okay, and right now it's 8:08, and with no other business, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was quick.
Another highly efficient meeting.